I'm Jerry Martien. I came to Lew Welch's work, I guess, later than most. He'd been gone for 5 years. I was middle-aged. And in imitation of his hermit poems, left the little hippie farm on the outskirts of Arcata and moved up into a coastal canyon in a tributary of Humboldt Bay. Lived in a tent and had in the tent these two books, Ring of Bone and How I Work as a Poet. I was a terrible hermit, utterly failed at the job. But it did set me on a lifelong study of Lew's work and the lessons. And by luck or design, I have been fortunate enough to hit upon one of the great teaching poets of our age. And my own poems only got better very, very slowly. But when I ended up teaching poetry to other people, an outrageous thing if you stop to think about it, I would read to them from Lew's essay, Language is Speech, which is included at the back of this new edition of Ring of Bone, which I think is a brilliant 2-for-1 deal. You might, in fact, start at the back of the book and read this. Essentially, it's dealing with the issue of how words come to mind, and particularly how words come to mind for a poet. To follow what Joanne was saying earlier, I vowed at that moment that every statement in my poem should have at least the force of, whose kid is that? The guide in the winery, at the moment he said, whose kid is that, was using language in an exact relationship with his consciousness. He was trying to get some work done. He spoke without thinking or remembering. Writing is not thinking or remembering. He simply spoke, and the people on the tour responded immediately without thought, and the child thereby was saved. Poetry should be at least as intense as this. It very seldom is. There is clearly something special about the way we bring words to mind when we write. We do something different from what we do even when we exactly speak, as the winery guide exactly spoke and saved the child. With any exactness to what? What we try to do in the situation of teaching or writing or confessing or standing firm against those who would cheat us or lie to us or kill us. What we try to do when we need most to speak openly to our beloved or to those we believe in, or those who believe in us, need us, ask us for really necessary advice, is to try to be, in words, exact. We must now speak, and we must now be exact. To what? This is the moment you bring words to mind as the poet brings words to mind. We all know what we go to poetry for. We want the exact transmission of mind into word. The words come to mind through the whole history of whatever tribe you learned your language in. The words come to mind through all the private history of how you've lived your human being. There is no way to cheat unless you go to too many schools and try to be a poet. Unless you mean, as Gregory Corso did when he got the calling in a prison in New York, to use the native speech, which is as much a part of you as your eyes and hair, and mean to use it to the end of truth and life against all odds in a deranged world. To use this speech, your own speech, the language of your father and your mother and your friends, the primary tool of all your actions toward all your wants and needs, to use this speech as a weapon, a tool, a singer's voice, the means to total sharing of all your mind. Unless you mean to do that, to try to be a poet is a blasphemy. And if any students showed up at the next class, I figured they were in.